want to redo this ground so that it runs up that way instead of somewhere down in here with some extra.
So to kind of run through this real fast, obviously you got the main battery. You know, it's kind of a shame that we couldn't figure out some way to just connect.
To make that work?
Does this come off? When we take this off, does this dash with the cup holders come off? Probably use your hole saw kit just to make the first initial hole.
But I want to redo this ground so that it runs up that way instead of underneath right there.
Up and over? Well, it's got room behind it. It's got a...
Well, now I was thinking this side up.
It's a lot cooler in here now with that fan blowing.
Yeah, I'm about to crank it up on high.
Oh, I'll do it.
Can you make us a ground with two of the big yellow loops to go from the fuse box to the battery? Cut off just enough so that I can tie it up with a clamp so that I can come around. Okay, I just got done connecting the inverter. You can see right here, I ran it right up the side of the inverter and then directly over to the fuse box. Right now, Joe is making our ground cable to go from the battery to the voltage reducer, and then we'll go from the voltage reducer to the fuse box for ground to give that a ground. So we're gonna work on that right now real quick.
All right, so we're coming off the positive here.
That guy's gonna come off the negative, run the side of the battery along the top of here to right here. So leave me enough to just clamp it with this red guide to right here so that I can put a good clamp. And if you can...
Hold on, so we're going from right here to here.
And then...
This is gonna go here.
Just like that to the bottom of this terminal so it'll sit like right there.
So you go right here?
Yeah, just leave a tiny bit extra and we'll make that work.
Okay.
Now, do you want to come directly off the battery for your amplifier ground, or do you want to come off of the voltage reducer?
I'm okay with coming off the voltage reducer.
So then make a ground also that comes down, feeds down to here for your amplifier.
Yep.
So give yourself enough, whatever way you think is the best. If you want to come around here, we clamp all three of them together and go down.
Well, since we don't have the amp, I'm just going to do the one side for now.
Yep, leave one side empty.
Yep.
Then we got to figure out pulling red wire all the way to the front. So we might have enough. And we got to clean all this up down at the bottom too. Yeah, our amp wire. Oh, we're on the wrong one, by the way. That's supposed to be ground.
Oh, we're ready anyway, so.
Those guys both go, and then what we'll do is we'll clamp them all together right there to keep them out of the way. But we got our amp power wire we need to run too.
That's the thicker one we want, right?
That's that guy right there, right? You already have put an end on it.
Do you think that's thick enough wire for the amp? I mean, that's kind of thin.
I feel like it is. I mean,
the only problem is that it's not going to get any more power because it's the same gauge as this, isn't it? Or was this a different wire? This is a different wire.
It's a different.
It's a thicker wire. But the positive and the negative, if they're both not thick enough,
we'd have to wait for an amp install kit if you want to do thicker wire. Notice the camera overheated. All right, that guy can go somewhere down in here with some extra.
This is the negative for the power that goes up front, which actually, again, I don't know why we use this. Wait, what is this one going to? Is this, oh, this is the amp. All right, so this needs to go on here. Actually, let's put that one on first.
All right, so this feeds your amp. That's got to go down
Do you want to go beside it that way?
Yeah, we could do that too. I mean, I don't know that running it underneath the amp gives you more room for sure.
Did you want to go behind it?
I did want to, but...
Yeah, I might as well cut off what you want now.
Yep. And then I'm gonna get a clamp. Tie this up nice right there. One big bunch. How much should I leave for the amp? All right, just a little update here. I am working on cleaning up the wiring inside the bay now. We have almost everything hooked up that we need to hook up, but now we got to make room in this bay. And so part of that entails untangling a lot of this mess. We're in the middle of cleaning up the wiring, so we're basically running our comm cable and our actual power cable from it's a charging cable, from our charger to our battery. And so we're just taking clamps and going along the edge and kind of clamping down to clean up the bay real nice.
So it has to switch over to the positive.
What does?
This blue wire. So we're back. We spent about an hour, probably equivalent, working on this bay here, getting things tightened up with all the additional items that we included in here. So to kind of run through this real fast, obviously you got the main battery. From here, what we did was go to a reducer, which is a 48 to 12 volt reducer. From that point, we jumped it over to a fuse panel, just in case we wanted to run any 12 volt optional electronics, but we haven't decided about that yet. From here, we have a converter from DC to AC that gives us a 110 option. And then over here is the charger itself. So we spent time really kind of going through everything, making sure all the wires were tight. We've prepped ourselves already for an amplifier that we're going to work on next. But the biggest thing is making sure everything was tight, up and out of the way, to give ourselves a good idea of how much room we can have for an amplifier. So earlier in this video, what you'll see is that we had a Boss amp. After breaking it out, looking at the dimensions, we figured that it just wasn't going to work for us. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, find an amp that makes sense, that will fit inside this compartment here itself. And then our next steps are going to be installing the dash with the speakers and the rest of the equipment for the stereo. So it looks great, very clean in here. We're going to do some additional cleaning up around here, but we are pretty much set, ready to go.
If we're going to rip the dash apart, we could connect your front speakers and run the wires to the back.
All right, so next we would need to pull the steering wheel off to install the dash, but we kind of get all the wiring done first. We do all that because I have to drive this thing around.
That's what I'm saying. We can't just leave it in a state where it won't.
We got to figure out the remote wire.
We'll just jump from the positive lead on the amp to the actual power positive on the back of the amp to the remote, just a little jumper wire.
You know, it's kind of a shame that we couldn't figure out some way to just connect.
To make that work?
Does this come off? Will we take this off? Does this dash with the cup holders come off?
Yes.
It does, doesn't it?
All that comes up.
So it just, all the wiring just floats back there? It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep, it just sits back there. Everything that you don't reuse.
You know, it's pretty clean install.
Yeah, it looks good so far. I think we'll get it. It's gonna look way better with an amp in there.
Yeah.
And all that stuff's covered. Guys, welcome back to the channel, and we're back again for episode 5 of the golf cart. And today, you guys saw we published one that was mostly getting the wiring thought out, getting everything inside of the engine bay, and cleaning up all the wiring. Joe, how did that come out in your opinion?
No, I think it looks really good. Again, with how much space you get back from getting rid of all those batteries, we're able to fit in all types of stuff here. So the last thing that we're going to install for this particular build is going to be an amp that we found online. I think it's going to work perfect for what we're doing. And then we're going to put some speakers in the back here, as well as some speakers in the front and the new dash, and it's going to be pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research on amplifiers, and I do a lot of watching oldschoolstereo.com on YouTube. He's a big fan of tar amps, and he has amp dynoed them. And from what he says, they're very underrated. This amp is extremely small, and it has absolutely cool reviews. We're hoping, even though it's small, it puts out a decent amount of power, and we decided if it doesn't, we'll probably go for one of their mono subwoofer amps and separate out the sub from the 4 other speakers. It'll be easy once we have our wiring already established right there. So what's our first step here? What are we gonna do right now?
Yeah, so to start chipping away at this, the first thing we're gonna do is come back here. The plan is to put 5 total speakers in. So we're gonna have 4 6.5 speakers that are waterproof, marine grade. 2 are gonna go back here in this particular section, and then 2 will be in the dash with the subwoofer in the rear. So the first thing we're gonna do is knock out, get in the holes for these to be put in, get them wired up, and get those wires ran up here to the amp.
Okay, do we have to take your back seat off to do that?
Yeah, so it'll make life a lot easier. I think we're gonna have to get in there with a jigsaw to make the cut. So we're gonna take this back seat off just to make our life a little bit easier. 4 bolts, I think, total, so it won't take about a few minutes to get this off, and it'll make our lives a lot easier to put these speakers in.
Gotcha, okay, cool. So we're gonna need our wrenches and also our jigsaw to go ahead and do that. So
absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get all that stuff gathered up because we don't have the tools we need right now.
Yep, let's do it.